Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, it is the second week of November here in southern Alberta. It is ridiculously cold outside and snowing like crazy. We're actually under a heavy snowfall warning. We've already got a few inches of snow on the ground. Fortunately, I got my snow tires put on this morning, so that's a good thing. And, well, I'm here trying to get caught up on a bunch of work. So, a little bit about what's happened here with me in the last couple of months. August 31st, I actually went home, had a nice supper, and while I was helping my wife with some dishes, all of a sudden one of my fingers got a little bit sore. The next day, actually at 1:30 in the morning, we had a huge windstorm move in. It was September 1st, and a huge windstorm started shaking the house. I had some windows open, so I had to get up and close some windows. And when I got up, I brushed the finger that was sore and actually blacked out and ended up on the floor. I managed to wake up a few seconds later, got up, went to close another window, blacked out again, and did get the windows finally closed and back to bed. But from there, the pain went from my finger into my wrist, into another wrist, into my shoulder, into my elbow, into my knees. And for all of September, I suffered insane pain, and I mean insane. It was to the point where it was either call 911 or wanting my life to be over. That's how bad it was. Medication didn't work to take away the pain. I changed my diet. Nothing worked. 1st of October, actually, I went and saw my doctor. He did a bunch of tests and everything, and then I couldn't get back in to see him until actually last week, which is the 1st of November. So for 2 months, I've been living in excruciating pain that migrated from joint to joint to joint. And I'm not talking just sore. I'm not talking just stiff. I'm talking like it felt like somebody shot me. Then they hit me with a spear, and then they heated the spear up with a blowtorch. It was horrible. I actually lost use of my wrists, my fingers, my knees, my shoulders. I was not in good shape. And this video is actually brought directly from that. And it's something that used to terrorize me in years past, and it still does actually. And that is, if you're a photographer, whether you are a photographer that's taking nature and wildlife pictures, or whether you're a photographer that's booking people to do family pictures or weddings, what do you do when you get sick or hurt? And I'm not saying if, it's when. I know so many people who have gone through different things. And so I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I strongly recommend, whether you're a nature photographer and wildlife photographer just doing this for yourself, or whether you're a wedding photographer, a commercial photographer, or whatever, and you're actually under contract with somebody. So let's start with the weddings. Let's start you being under contract with somebody. No matter what you do, once you book a wedding, you need somebody to back you up. So I strongly recommend finding a photographer that's at a similar level or better in skill than what you are, that will help you, that will take over if you get sick or injured. Especially, and I mean especially, if it is weddings. And I see quite often, I'm on a number of professional groups, they're private groups, so photographers don't mind posting honest things on there. And they'll post, I need help, I'm in this area, I'm really sick. I can't do my wedding tomorrow. I need somebody to cover for me. Now, that works. Don't get me wrong. That does work sometimes. But you need to find people that will back you up. You need to find people that are there for you. And it's usually not just one person, because one person could be busy that weekend. And it does you no good if that one photographer is busy. You need to find several people that will back you up. And this is always something that worried me when I was doing weddings, because I had a few people that I could rely on, but it was a shot in the dark whether they would be available or whether they would be willing to do it. So it was always nervous if on a Thursday or a Friday I hurt myself or I wasn't feeling good, what would I do for that wedding? And thank God, all the years I did weddings, 20-something years, I did not have to cancel one wedding because of an illness on my part. Now, I went to weddings when I was not feeling good. I went to weddings when I was sick. I went to weddings when I had breathing problems. I went to weddings lots of times when I would have rather just stayed at home and stayed in bed. whether the weather was bad, whether the bugs were bad, whether I just wasn't feeling good, whatever it was. But if you have clients, if you're a company that books and guarantees that you're going to cover something, you need to have yourself backed up somehow. Now, a lot of times, I think I mentioned this in other videos, it was funny because I would work my way through the wedding. Usually getting to the wedding was the worst part. Stomach would hurt, or whatever part of the body was hurting would hurt even worse on the way to the wedding. Then once the wedding started, you got in a groove. Everything moved so quick that you just didn't have time to feel sick. Sure, sometimes you had to run to the bathroom. Sometimes you had to just sit down for a second, but you could always make it work. Then once the wedding was over, it was like a sigh of relief, and it was like your body just gained so much health just instantly. It was just, and you felt so good that it was over. All that stress and everything left. And even if you were still sick, you felt good. But you need some way of backing yourself up. You need some way of having somebody to cover for you. Now, if you have second shooters, that's a great thing. And I know a number of photographers that have second shooters and third shooters that will cover for them. So they will have a second shooter at the wedding because that's what their packages say. And if they're sick for some reason, they can either go there and switch roles, and the second shooter does most of the work, whereas the main photographer just does the smaller stuff. Or they can even call in another shooter and have the 2 second shooters shoot. But you need to have this prepared. You also need to have this in your contract. You need to tell people that you have this backup plan in case something goes wrong. Why? Because it stops them from getting upset if you're not the photographer that's there because you're at home sicker than sick. It prevents them from suing you. It prevents a lot of stuff if it's in the contract. Put it in there. Be honest with people. This is my plan should I get sick. This is my plan should a second shooter get sick. This is my backup. This is how I've done it, and they will feel much better. That works for families as well, although sometimes you can reschedule a family, sometimes you can't. Commercial shoots, same thing. Some commercial shoots you cannot reschedule. If they're having a grand opening of a business, you cannot just go and phone them up one day and say, hey, I'm not feeling good, so can we reschedule the grand opening tomorrow and have the president fly in next week? Sorry, doesn't work that way. So you need to have backups for those things. Now, what happens if you're just the photographer that goes out and on the weekend to shoot some of your own pictures, that you do stock photos or you just do nature and wildlife photos and, hey, not a big deal? Well, yes, it is. I see so many times that people have done foolish things like getting stuck, like hurting themselves out in the bush, going out and then getting sick out in the bush, and they've had issues getting back home safely. You need to prepare for that. You need to plan for that. Now, I'm not talking about anything grandiose. It can just be a simple thing like having an app on your phone that's an emergency app that you can hit a button and it'll send out a text message to friends and family that says, I'm hurt, I'm injured, I'm at this location. Now, that works great if you're around cell phone all the time. If you're not around cell phone all the time, you may want to get one of these GPS systems that sends out an emergency locator over satellite to people. It will save you a lot of issues, especially if you go into the backcountry, especially if you hike or you camp overnight, or you're someplace where people won't come by on a regular basis. You need to prepare should you get sick or should you get injured. The other thing is, let people know where you're going. Let them know when you're coming back. Now, you don't have to give them an exact location. If I'm going to Banff National Park, I don't tell my wife, I'm going to Banff National Park, I'm going to Johnson Canyon for 3.5 hours, then I'm going to Yoho Park for 4.5 hours, then I'm going to go kayaking on Emerald Lake for 3 hours. You don't need it that specific, but you need to leave an itinerary with people that can help you should you need it. Now, what else should you do? Whether you're shooting for somebody or whether you're on your own, out there taking nature pictures, take some medication with you. Have a first aid kit. I have seen so many times photographers that get injured. They scratch themselves, scrape themselves, cut themselves. They do something. They don't have a Band-Aid with them. They don't have a spray with them. They don't have a splint with them. Get a good first aid kit and take it with you. Likewise, if you're going out overnight, take some medication, especially if you take medication. Make sure you're taking that medication with you, but take aspirin or take Tylenol or Advil, whatever it is that you take. Take any medication that you take on an irregular basis. Let's say you have stomach problems and you need to take something for your stomach issues. Yes, chances are you're not going to need it, but guess what? Could be that you will need it. So make up a kit that you can take with you. You can use everything that you use from home, put it in a portable kit, take it with you. Then when you come back home, you just put the whole kit back in the closet or up in the cupboard. And then when you go next time, you take it with you. If you need it at home, you just use it. But prepare, people. Again, I see it so often. People get injured. People get hurt. People get sick. Also, get a backup plan for a vehicle breakdown as well. I know this isn't about getting sick, but a vehicle breakdown happens as well. For me, peace of mind is my business pays for an AMA membership for me. I know that if I should get locked out of my vehicle, I know if I should get off the roadway and get stuck, if I should get a flat tire and I can't change it myself, or whatever, even if I run out of gas, I can phone the emergency number and I can get help. That is part of my emergency kit in my vehicle or when I'm on location. And yes, I have used it. I have not yet had to use it for myself, but I've used it for other people that I have been with to help them out. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get better. I feel much better with the medication that I'm currently on. I had a pain attack the other day and I took some Advil and it knocked it completely out. So I'm hoping that the inflammation and whatever it is going down. But people, prepare for the inevitable because it will happen. Now, one side note. As I said earlier, it's now cold and snowing like crazy here in southern Alberta. If you go out traveling a lot, I strongly recommend that if you're driving on winter roads, get yourself some good snow tires. If you're traveling in bad weather, keep an emergency kit with blanket, with food and stuff in your vehicle. If you're traveling in bad weather, take your vehicle in and get it serviced. If it needs brakes, if it needs whatever, get it fixed before the weather gets bad. Again, it does no good to try to get through the winter on a really bad battery, that you go out someplace to do a shoot and your vehicle is the one that doesn't start. So prepare for the bad weather. Until next time, get out there, enjoy what you can, enjoy the health that you do have, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.